rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Hello, Palms. I'm just starting. I haven't even gotten going yet. And you arrived just in time. There we go. And Bonnie, yes, of course. I miss all of you guys. I do. And I'm really going to miss you guys somewhat, on a couple of days coming up here because we've got... I've got some programming gaps that are going to be showing up starting this week. Friday, there will be no show for Friday, but I will return on Saturday. I'm planning on having one Thursday, and I'll return on Saturday. Mrs. Whiskey has requested a date night, and so, yeah, we're going to go on date night on Friday night. So I'm fairly certain you guys won't feel too bad. Well, maybe you'll feel bad for me. I don't know. But yeah, we're going on a date night Friday night. So there will be no show Friday. Okay. No show Friday. All right. Let's go ahead and get things kicked off. Tonight is Bonnie is up for tonight's Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would, please stand, remove your hat if you're wearing one, remove your hat if you're wearing one, place your hand over your heart and follow along with Bonnie as she recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And wow, you can really hear those cicadas in the background. I'm going to assume they're cicadas. We call them grasshoppers up here, but they're a different breed of it could be, I don't know, maybe you guys call them crickets. I don't know. I mean, I know down in Texas they were cicadas. But anyway, yes, and you have a wonderful Kentucky accent there, Bonnie. I don't know why you're worried about it. I want to hear Becky. I do. I want to hear Becky's Australian accent, but that would be a little weird having an Australian doing the Pledge of Allegiance to America. But just to do it in the accent would be kind of cool. Anyway, I also understand I've got Nana of JJS has got one that got sent to me, and I have yet to pull it down. So I'm going to go ahead and get that done, hopefully tonight. Speaking of all of the things that are going on, we have got an incredible amount of stuff, and I'm not talking about the news, not necessarily, unless, of course, you're into outlaw country. Let me tell you, because it's coming. It is coming. 1 week from tonight is the launch of Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio. It debuts on April 7th. Now, you did not hear this from me, okay? Wink, wink. You did not hear this from me. But if you go to Live 365, you might be able to find us in their catalog of digital radio stations and kind of listen to the precursor if you are all that interested. Okay. Just saying, not saying. You didn't hear it from me, but I'm just letting you know we're kind of in our testing phase. We're testing things out, making sure everything is hunky-dory to go on the 7th. So you might be able to go there and listen to what might be in store, get a little preview in terms of what's in store. And I'm also not going to necessarily tell you this either, but a certain someone is seriously considering having their own show on the Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio. I won't tell you who. But I'm sure if it comes to fruition, because I'm still kind of working some of the logistics out. Oh, I just let it go. Oops. Anyway, there's still some logistics that need to get worked out. And if it occurs, you may have another alternative, not for political discussion, but definitely for music. At least some of my favorite music. So just saying, if you're interested. Anyway. So if you head off to tgrn.net, True Grit Roots Network, you will see splashed all over there that Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio debuts April 7th. That is next Monday. And we will have links to our new app there as well. And the new app, unfortunately, is going to be specifically for Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio. We can't do two channels in the same app right now. So that being said, you can download it once we get it up there, but keep an eye on all of that. You can do that at tgrn.net. And of course, don't forget our launch party will be our launch party will be on the 9th. That's the first launch party. And of course, I am traveling to Texas to do that. So that's where for the programming notes, I will be out of pocket on the 8th traveling. So the 8th, I also won't have a show either. That's Tuesday of next week, not tomorrow, but 1 week from tomorrow, there will be no show as well. So Friday the 4th and Tuesday the 8th, there will be no shows because of the date night and travel involved. But anyway, so there's all of that. So go to tgrn.net, get caught up on everything. And I know, I'm sorry, I meant to put together a newsletter with all of this stuff on it, and I'll probably still write it, but I'm failing. I'm falling down. I've got so much stuff going on. It's really hard to keep up. So I will be doing what I can with that. So there we go. Yeah, so here, tgrn.net. I've been talking about Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio, but don't forget, we also have Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio as well that you can go and check out already, that is already playing Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio. It's got a great mix of music, and it's going right now. And then, of course, we have Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio that's going to be debuting next week. Head on over to tgrn.net, our home on the web. You can listen right there through your browser on any kind of device, whether it's a mobile phone or your computer. And you can also listen if you have the smart devices like the Amazon Alexa. You can listen on from the Live 365 app there to both stations, actually, or both channels right now, being put on by True Grit Roots Network. So plenty of stuff going on there. Just an exciting spring. All right, enough about that. I have done my due diligence. Okay. So, Elon Musk. He went to Wisconsin because, of course, there is a really big and highly publicized Supreme Court race, state Supreme Court race going on there. And he is there to try and get the Supreme Court shifted from a liberal lunatic court over to a conservative court. And while he was there, he made a bit of a speech, and he brought up a kind of an interesting point. Now, this is, of course, something that we've talked about here on this show quite often, and I definitely agree with him on these. But we definitely, let's just say, he's suggesting that maybe he might be maybe looking into it. We'll see. But here, let's take a listen to what Elon has to say.
Let's just say that there's a lot of strangely wealthy members of Congress where I just can't. I'm trying to connect the dots of how did they become rich? Well, how they get 20 million if they're earning 200,000 a year? Sounds. Nobody can explain that. So something's. Yeah, we're going to try to figure it out and certainly stop it from happening. So. Yeah. I mean, just in general, the whole NGO scam is just crazy, yeah, it's blown my mind really. So yeah.
So there you go. He's thinking potentially that he should be looking into this kind of stuff. I agree with him. I mean, it's really kind of sad, to be honest with you, that an individual such as AOC, who used to be a waitress / bartender / waitress / economics major who doesn't understand economics, okay, and she goes to Congress, and her net worth jumps to well above the 6-figure number. I think it went from like, I don't know, barely 175,000 up to like almost 10 million, I think, at one point. And she only gets $174,000 a year as that's the base starting salary for a freshman congressperson. So why? Why is it that these Congress people, especially the ones that have been in Congress for 30, 40 years, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Joe Biden, how is it that all of those people go and, they just all of a sudden, they're like worth 20, 30, 40 million dollars? I mean, seriously, how? How does this happen? Now, we know with Nancy Pelosi, she's been accused of insider trading. Nothing's really come of it because nobody bothered to look. But we're trying to figure all of this out. And I'm just not sure, if Elon is going to be able to dig into it, but I hope he does. I hope he gets the opportunity to dig through and try and figure this out because, again, as he pointed out, how is it that they're making $200,000 a year and yet they're worth upwards of 20 million? I mean, seriously. So I'm not quite sure I get it. I know I don't get it. And, yeah. Let's hope that he goes after him, and let's hope that he figures it out. Because as he basically said, he's like, the government. Now, here's one thing that was not part of the clip that I played you. All right, one attendee at the town hall, this is via the New York Post, had asked Musk if Doge had uncovered evidence of funds wired from the USAID, which again is the U.S. Agency for International Development, all right, to Maxine Waters, Adam Schiff, and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. Well, Musk didn't answer it directly. However, he did say that they'll, meaning the government, send money overseas to one NGO, which is a non-governmental organization. All right. And then then they'll go through a bunch of different NGOs. And he said, then I'm highly confident that a bunch of that money then comes back to the United States and lands in the pockets of the people you just mentioned. So he's sort of suggesting that this is going on, all right, meaning the money laundering. For anybody that doesn't quite understand money laundering is a circular setup, okay? And yeah, so it's just a circular setup. The money goes in at one place and then it gets funneled through somewhere else, and then it eventually comes back to the individual. Musk did continue and say, but it is a circuitous route. It doesn't go directly, but let's just say there's a lot of strangely wealthy members of Congress where I'm trying to connect the dots of how do they become rich? He's not wrong. And as I pointed out to you, and this says it here in the piece here, rank and file members of Congress make $174,000 annually. Last year, Musk, whose net worth is pegged at $330 billion by Bloomberg, helped to kill legislation to raise congressional pay, then later supported an increase as a means of fighting corruption. Scores of lawmakers who have spent decades in Congress are millionaires, which again, how? I mean, think of it this way, okay? If you have a sports figure, right, and they're being paid a base salary of $174,000 per year, doesn't change for a sports team. But they make all kinds of money hand over fist when it comes to doing things like endorsements and selling shoes or, whatever kind of, sneakers or sports drinks or whatever. They make it all on the endorsements side of the house. That's pretty easily trackable because you can go through and you can figure all that out. And because of the person being famous, okay, because of the person being famous, that's why they're getting so much money from the endorsement deals. Oh my gosh, for an example, Michael Jordan. Oh, Michael Jordan, he endorsed my whatever it is, right? And I'm good with that. That's fine. If you can go out and you can make all kinds of money doing endorsement deals, sure. But you don't see hardly anybody in Congress going around and getting endorsement deals. For one, I believe it's kind of illegal, if I recall correctly. And two, they, 99.9% of your constituents have absolutely no idea who the hell you are outside of when it's time to reelect you. And even then, if they happen to know your name, okay, then they are not going to know necessarily what your voting record is. And that's part of the problem that we have in this country, but that's a discussion for another time. The point that I'm making here is, how are these people making all of this money and essentially are multimillionaires when they're only making, $174,000, $200,000, whatever it is per year? Now, you'll recall, by the way, back, I believe it was Bill Clinton. If I remember correctly, Bill Clinton had to get what was considered to be a pay raise. He was making, as the president of the United States, $250,000 a year at the time. And what ended up happening is Congress, Teddy Kennedy, to be exact, if I recall correctly, was approaching that in terms of his salary. Now, the Constitution has a law that basically states the president is supposed to be the highest paid person in government. And so what Congress ended up having to do is they ended up having to pass a law that gave the president a bump in pay. They covered it up at the time, if I recall correctly, by saying that he's the CEO of one of the greatest companies, quote unquote, okay, in the world, meaning the government of the United States. And so he has to be paid along the same lines as what you see some of these other CEOs getting, which many of these CEOs, okay, are getting, $500,000, million plus contracts, plus retirement packages, plus, all these other things because they're picking up Fortune 500 companies or something that they're working with. So the point to all of this, of course, is the fact that you still have members of Congress that are, $200,000, $250,000 a year. How are they making it into the 20 million mark? Because as you've seen with Donald Trump as an example, Donald Trump actually had to give up all connections to his businesses for fear of a improper conflict of interest. He had to turn over all of his controlling interest in that company. Dan Bongino had to do the same thing. Dan Bongino had to hand over everything to his wife, Paula, as the CEO of Silverlock. And so, again, I'm not exactly sure how these people are able to bring in that kind of money. I mean, yes, some of them are so popular, quote unquote, all right, that they go and they will get $1,000 plate, $1,500 plate speaking fees and engagements or whatever. I mean, I understand that if you're going to go and you're going to pay $1,500 a plate or whatever it is to fundraise to listen to some morons stand up there and speak like Nancy Pelosi, stand up there and listen to her dentures clack together. Okay. I mean, I don't know what she gets out of it. And even, Bill Clinton, after he got out of office, he had speaking engagements where he was getting from the Russians $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000 at one point. Okay. If you can garner that kind of money, but again, that was out of office, not during office. So where do these long-term people like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and some of these other people, that have been in Congress for decades on end, where are they getting their money? And that is what Elon is asking about. Here in the piece, just to give you a couple of examples, two of the wealthiest include Nancy Pelosi, who has a quoted net worth of about $250 million, and Senator Rick Scott of Florida, whose personal fortune hovers around $552 million. Pelosi's wealth apparently comes from her and her venture capitalist husband Paul's lucrative investments in companies like Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and Netflix. I'll get to that in just a minute, Outlaw Dogs. So Scott's personal fortunes largely stem from his work co-founding HCA Healthcare, which is a company that runs hospitals and other medical facilities around Florida, and a company called Solantic, which is an urgent care clinic chain. His work on both of those companies predates his time in the Senate. So, I mean, there are explanations for it, okay? Which is fine. But, again, if you can explain it, sure. But if it's not explainable, like I said, AOC, brand new congressperson, worth very little when she first got elected, and now she's been in for 4 years, 5 years maybe, and she's worth multi-million. She's basically a multi-millionaire. I mean, really. Anyway. All right. Okay, let's get off the tracks. Dropping off the tracks for a second. Outlaw Dogs has asked a question, which is totally off topic of politics and stuff, but that's okay. I don't care. Outlaw Dog says, I have a question. Oh, wait. Where is it? There it is. I have a question. How many inches is a hand in horse terms? Okay, so here is what it is. All right. A hand is basically a average, and I got to be careful because I don't want my camera to go freaking crazy, but the average distance between from where your pinky knuckle is up to the thumb, and they would walk up the horse from the ground on the foreleg, one of the forelegs, and they would walk up from the ground to the withers, going one hand over the other all the way up. So you could have a difference of distance depending upon how big someone's hand actually is. However, the generally accepted imperial measurement for a hand is roughly around 4 inches. I think it's like 4.1, if I recall correctly, in terms of the exact, what would be considered the exact measurement of a hand. Average horses can be anywhere from around 14 to 15 hands. That's kind of the pony level, all the way up to 17, 18 or bigger. Okay. So there you go. And that's the hand is usually about 4 inches. So you can kind of figure that out from there. All right. By the way, the only reason I would guess the only reason why she's asking me that is not because I'm like some brilliant, smart individual, like so, intrinsically knowledgeable about all things copacetic. Mainly it just is because I have horses. So there you go. Anyway. All right. Well, speaking about another guy that is really, really smart and everything else. And I actually, I got to tell you, this guy, he pretty much gets me to actually want to watch CNN, which is amazing, only because the guy is so highly read up on all kinds of topics that he is able to, turn the liberal leftist lunatics that are there on the panels into just blubbering idiots. Okay. But Scott Jennings has been reportedly just signed up for another 3 years at CNN. So Scott Jennings is sticking with CNN. So this makes CNN a little more possibly watchable when I'm stuck in places where CNN is the only thing out there. But anyway, here he is on, I believe it's Chicks on the Right is the podcast. And so he he answered a question and talks a little bit about it right here. Let's play a little bit of the message that he has. It's about a 30-second clip. So
one thing that we cannot do as conservatives is recede from the places that are more hostile to us. I mean, the great value of having me in this role on CNN, I think, is just that this audience and a lot of the people I debate, I'm probably the only Republican they know. They're not hearing what half or more than half or even 80% of the country thinks about an issue on any given day. And so I feel like I've carved out this really interesting role. CNN gives me the space to do it. It's where I'm supposed to be right now.
And so there he is. Which again brings me to the idea people ask me all the time. They're like, why are you still on X? Why are you on X? X is a cesspool. Well, there's a reason why. Even back before Elon. The reason why I was on X was because of the fact that I would have to, I'm trying to educate people. I'm trying to get people to understand that there is knowledgeable individuals out there who are much more knowledgeable than the crap that's being spewed from these leftist mouths. And, so there you go. I can understand a little bit of how he feels, but hey, he just signed up a 3-year contract. I wonder how much he got, to be honest with you. So yeah, let's just see. He was, the writer, David Strom in Hot Air, where this comes from, basically says Scott Jennings is sticking with CNN. Thank God. He goes, like you, most of my exposure to cable news from any station comes through clips on X, and my favorite ones are almost invariably clips of Scott Jennings in the midst of a political debate on CNN. I agree with him on that. Anyway, he goes on and says, I have long feared that Fox or another network would try to poach him from CNN because he is a standout talent. He and Harry Enton are the best things going on the failing network. And it's hard to see how CNN can retain a single viewer outside the friends, families, and employees, maybe, of the company and its talent. Yeah. So, yep. Anyway, the point being is that he's doing a good job. And it's even amazing too when you've got some people who are sitting here, who are kind of on the fence on the other side. They're like Charlemagne from the Breakfast Club, I think he calls it. But anyway, he actually said that he wishes that CNN actually has more people like Scott Jennings on CNN. I like that guy. I do. Scott's not a troll. He's not, his goal isn't necessarily to own them, but it is to bring out the audience, to bring out the truth, the honest truth about what's going on in all of this. And so that's why he's doing it. If you ever listen to him, he is knowledgeable. He knows about the subject matter. He is able to generally deflect many of the leftist lunatic arguments on the panels that he is asked to be a part of. And so therefore, man, I'm telling you, it's good thing. Maybe CNN might think about adding another person. Not that I necessarily want to take Scott away, because anything away from Scott, because he's very much in demand over there, being the only conservative voice out of the entire place, I would imagine. But anyway, so we'll just have to see what happens here. But yeah, I am always entertained, and I've played a bunch of Scott clips here. Anyway. I love Scott Jennings. Whenever I get a clip of him doing things, it's really all that fun. All right. Let me take a quick break here and tell you about, if it'll go, 1775 coffee. All right. Weak coffee is for the weak, and at Rumble, weak has never been a part of the mission. No fillers, no fraud, and no settling for mediocrity, just like 1775 coffee. It's single origin, small farm, hand-picked, specialty grade coffee that stands for quality, free speech, and calling out BS when it matters. Forget stale, mass-produced beans roasted just enough to hide the flaws. Dark roast that hits like a Trump tariff. Medium roast that keeps it bold without the bitterness. And of course, there's the Vitality Mushroom Blend, which is real energy and lasting focus with no synthetic garbage. For K-Cup pods, whole beans, or fresh ground coffee, go to 1775coffee.com. That's right, I'm using the numbers. 1775coffee, all one word, .com. Use promo code STUDIO, and you'll get 15% off of your order. Go to 1775coffee.com. Use the promo code STUDIO, that's STUDIO, and you will get 15% off your order. Start your morning with coffee that stands for something. Go to 1775coffee.com and get your K-Cup pods, whole beans, or fresh ground coffee today, in whichever one that you want, whether it's the dark roast, the medium roast. I actually drink both, or I have drank both dark roasts and medium roasts. just depending upon the day. So there you go. Go to 1775coffee.com. Use promo code STUDIO for 15% off your order. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about Trump. Because, of course, this is Trump's second term. Has anybody ever heard of the government agency known as the U.S. Institute for Peace? I haven't. I have no idea what the heck the U.S. Institute of Peace is. And honestly, I don't know in the Constitution where there would be a government or a constitutionally mandated section within Article 1, Section 8 that would be considered a task for the U.S. Institute for Peace. But apparently, Trump has gutted it. The Trump administration, according to this article in LifeZette, here we go. In LifeZette, he apparently gutted in a sweeping move last Friday, firing nearly the entire staff, according to multiple reports. The mass firings described by some employees as a Friday night massacre in comments to the Washington Post affected between 200 to 300 individuals at the nonprofit organization. What would the U.S. Institute of Peace have to do with the government's constitutionally mandated mission of the number of items that are listed in Article 1, Section 8? Really? I mean, really? The employees were apparently informed of their termination via email, with many of them being offered severance packages and 1 month of health insurance, provided that they waived their right to sue the organization. So they're getting a little smarter in terms of some of this. The email notification stated, quote, "This letter is to inform you of a change in your employment status with the United States Institute of Peace. Effective March 28th, 2025, your employment with us will conclude," according to the Washington Post. So, again, can somebody explain to me what the U.S. Institute of Peace, what they're supposed to do? Anyway, so a judge had recently denied a request from a former USIP board members for a restraining order against Doge, okay, which had sought to oversee the Institute's operations. Again, what the heck is this? What is this thing? And why is it even here? Anyway, the move to restructure the USIP is not entirely new. On February 19th, President Trump issued an executive order aimed at overhauling the Institute, which included changes to the organization's website. The executive order was part of the administration's broader effort to eliminate inefficiencies within government agencies and nonprofit organizations that receive taxpayer funding. White House Press Secretary, Deputy Press Secretary Anna Kelly addressed the firings in a statement to CBS News on Saturday, emphasizing the administration's goal was cutting wasteful government spending. Kelly said, "Taxpayers don't want to spend $50 million per year on a publicly funded research institute that has failed to deliver peace," Kelly said. Okay. So they're getting rid of this research institute. Okay. Again, I'm just going to ask. And I'm serious. If there is anybody, whether it is Democrat, Republican, liberal, leftist versus conservative, if you can tell me, please, somewhere within Article 1, Section 8, where it says anything about the federal government, public dollars are supposed to go to research. Explain to me what this is. Tell me. Explain to me what this thing is. Why should the federal government be using the American taxpayer dollars in order to do it? I just don't understand. And at the price of $50 million per year, really? $50 million per year? Not that that's any kind of huge drop in the bucket, let's say. But, I mean, really? I mean, this is no different than the whole USAID thing. There's not one thing in Article 1, Section 8 that says that American taxpayer dollars need to go toward information or informing other foreign entities for us. I mean, you want it. Hey, like I've said, any of these things that you want, if you're a leftist or any other kind of American that would love to have one of these things be a constitutionally mandated responsibility of the federal government, there is a real simple way to take care of this. It's called go to Article 5 and get an amendment passed. That's what you do, because that's the correct angle, the correct path, the correct steps that need to be taken in order to add in all of these wonderful programs that you want, like Social Security, like healthcare, like all of this stuff, which has completely been skipped. That's the thing. So apparently, according to the piece here, it was created by Congress in 1984, meaning the USIP, and has faced scrutiny over its effectiveness and the use of taxpayer dollars. The Institute's stated mission is to promote conflict resolution and peace building worldwide. Okay. There's the mission. Okay? There's the mission. Conflict resolution and peace building worldwide. I'm going to look up, let's see, is it Article 1, Section 8? Let's see, Section 8. I don't see any of that in the 26 items or 16 items or whatever, however many items are listed here. And see where we're responsible for any kind of no, not that. No, oh, regulate commerce with foreign nations. Okay, maybe. Yeah, regulate commerce. No, that's like sale of goods. Okay, so, let's see, what else? Yeah, nope, that one doesn't work. Nope. No, I could go on, but I'm not going to. Because it's a mess. And again, this is another thing that falls to, thank you, buddy. Buddy Weiser's always on top of it for me. This is another thing that falls to the 10th Amendment. Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. I don't understand it. It just doesn't make any sense. So, but don't be surprised if somebody doesn't try to like throw in a liberal leftist judge who oversteps their authority. And, sorry, that was a shot at, South Park, oversteps their authority and goes ahead and, puts in some sort of a, massive international injunction. I mean, hell, why not? They already seem to think they have all the power in the world right now in the judiciary to be able to do whatever it is they want. Yeah. Well, right. Okay. Let me see. So I've got 2 or 3 articles here. I'll just jump over those and go to the next one. So, Trump, yeah, Cartman, you're right. So Trump has, gotten a little pissed off at Putin because of what Putin said. I thought he and like Putin were like the best of friends. You know, we're like best buddies. Some would even suggest that maybe, you know, something. Anyway, I'll leave that to your imagination. But apparently here in the Epic Times, he got mad and he basically says Trump threatens secondary tariffs on Russian oil if Ukraine's ceasefire fails. This is in the Epic Times. The president said he'd impose sanctions if Russia and I are unable to make a deal on stopping the bloodshed in Ukraine, and if I think it's Russia's fault. Okay, well, let's be honest here. Russia seems to be the one that wants to keep going in the conflict because Zelensky has, for the most part, I mean, outside of his initial thing when he was kicked out of the White House, has been for the most part questioning or following along with whatever Trump wanted. Putin has been the one that's been dragging his feet. So President Trump said on March 30th that he would levy secondary tariffs of 25 to 50% on all Russian oil, which could start within a month, if he thinks that the nation is hindering his efforts to end the war with Ukraine or even tries to prevent a ceasefire. So this was in a phone interview with NBC News, of which the audio and transcript have not yet been released. Trump said that he was angry when Russian President Vladimir Putin called into question the credibility of President Zelensky's leadership. Trump said he planned to speak with the Russian president this week. White House reported the NBC report on the call, or reposted the NBC report on the call. The Epic Times has made a request for a transcript of the interview. But apparently during the call, Putin who doesn't recognize Zelensky's presidency as legitimate, said that Ukraine should be put under a form of a temporary administration and grant new elections and the signing of key accords, which could effectively oust Zelensky from power. Now, you recall that Zelensky made the comment at one point that he would step down as president if it meant peace. I wonder if he is willing to stand up to that comment. If he is willing to stand up and do what would be considered the right thing to get this done and over with. That's a darn good question. Because Zelensky did say that. He did say, hey, I'll step down from the presidency. Now, granted, he followed that up with, and I'll put in somebody behind me, which may or may not go along with Putin's idea of who should be in charge. Might end up being Zelensky 2.0, or even worse, bad Zelensky 2.0, which not saying that Zelensky is good or bad necessarily. But it does bring up an interesting aspect to the entire situation here, because of the fact that Zelensky has made that comment, and now Putin is basically saying, hey, you know what? Maybe Zelensky doesn't need to be in charge here anymore. That would be very, very interesting for that. Now, Trump reportedly made the statement that if Russia and I are unable to make the deal on stopping the bloodshed in Ukraine, and if I think it was Russia's fault, I am going to put secondary tariffs on oil, on all oil coming out of Russia. That would be that if you buy oil from Russia, you can't do business in the United States. There will be a 25% tariff on all oil, a 25 to 50% tariff on all oil. So, yeah. Yep. So anyway, the president said said Putin knows that he is angry, but noted that he has a very good relationship with the Russian president, and anger dissipates quickly if he does the right thing. On the flight back to Washington on Sunday evening, Trump reiterated his message to Putin. I don't think he's going to go back on his word. he told the Epoch Times. I've known him for a long time. We've always gotten along well. Asked if he wanted Russia to agree to a ceasefire, Trump said that there was a psychological deadline. If I think they're tapping us along, I would not be happy about it, he said. Now, Trump also had words for Zelensky at the same time. He said he's trying to back out of the rare earth deal. And if he does that, he's got some problems, big problems. He wants to be a member of NATO. Well, he was never going to be a member of NATO. He understands that. Anyway. Yeah. Finnish President Alexander Stubb said on March 30th that he told Trump that the United States needed to set a deadline for brokering a ceasefire deal to end the war in Ukraine in order for it to succeed. April 20th would be a good time for a full ceasefire without any conditions because a deadline is needed because it is Easter and because President Donald Trump will have been in office for 3 months, Stubb told Finnish reporters in London. I would tend to agree with that. They need to start making some milestones on this. Well, that isn't the only Trump threat that is out there. Trump has also threatened Iran with bombing and secondary tariffs if it fails to make a nuclear deal. The Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian, I hope that's right, earlier said the Islamic regime is declining direct negotiations with the United States over its fast-track nuclear program. This also in the Epoch Times. President Donald Trump on March 30th raised the prospect of secondary tariffs and military strikes on Iran if Tehran does not reach an agreement with Washington regarding its nuclear program. Now, you recall that Iran is supposedly enriching uranium for power plants, nuclear power plants. However, as I've reported before, and because my memory is longer than, an average leftist's, the uranium enrichment has far surpassed the level needed for power plants and has potentially gone into weapons grade uranium, even though we haven't had conversations with them for quite some time. But yeah. Trump said if they don't make a deal, there will be bombing. But there's a chance that if they don't make a deal, that I will do secondary tariffs on them like I did 4 years ago. The White House reposted the NBC report on this call. The Epoch Times has made a request for a transcript of the interview. Okay. So this is part of another thing that he was talking about on the NBC News interview. The remarks were made after the Iranian president said on March 30th that the Islamic regime is declining direct negotiations, like I said. The comment was his nation's response to a letter that Trump sent Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah al-Khamenei, or Khamenei, yes, earlier in March. The Iranian president delivered the response via the Sultanate of Oman and left open the chance of indirect negotiations with the United States. Those talks have been stagnant since Trump withdrew the United States from Iran's nuclear deal with the world powers in 2018 during his first term. Now, the possibility of U.S. military actions against Iran's nuclear program remains on the table as the United States continues airstrikes against the Iran-backed Houthi terrorists in Yemen. The Iranian president said, "We don't avoid talks. It's the breach of promises that has caused issues for us so far. They must prove they can build trust." Yeah. Iran's trial currency has, or rial, I don't know what that is. Anyway, currency has plummeted since Trump's reelection and the resumption of his maximum pressure campaign on Tehran. So yeah. Anyway, the Iranian president, of course, has toughened, because he was, Khamenei, by the way, in 85, criticized Trump in February, warning that conversations with Washington are not intelligent, wise, or honorable. And after that, the Iranian president toughened his own comments regarding the United States. Let's just face it. I mean, Iran's got a statue president. Okay. That's it. It's a symbolic presidency. The guy that is really in charge is the Ayatollahs. That's the way it's been for however many decades in terms of that. Messages from Iran, back to the piece, have been mixed for weeks, with videos on Quds Day demonstrations on March 28th showing people instructing crowds to shout only "death to Israel" instead of the usual "death to America." So that kind of changed a little bit. Iranian parliament speaker Mohammad Bagher Qualibaf said on March 28th, "The Americans themselves know how vulnerable they are. If they violate Iran's sovereignty, it will be like a spark in a gunpowder depot, setting the entire region ablaze. In such a scenario, their bases and their allies will not be safe." Really? Really? Yeah, I don't think so, Scooter. Yeah. Anyway, they're Iran is typically a lot of talk. Okay. Anyway. Yeah, it's just a lot of talk. That's all it is. So, we'll see what happens here, but don't put it past Trump to say to Israel, for an example, hey, if you guys know something, go and freaking, take care of it. Blow it up for all we know. Well, there is one thing that I am going to be critical about Trump about. And this is it doesn't happen often, but I'm going to tell you, there are times where sometimes Trump says something and I think all it does is fuel the fire, and he doesn't need this against him. But apparently, at least according to the Daily Wire, he told NBC News also on Sunday that he's quote unquote not joking about a potential third term. Okay. It's talk like this that makes the left get, and rightfully so, they have a bit of an argument about this, that makes them get all wrapped up into knots. This is the one thing that I really am not happy with Trump about. He needs to stop this kind of stuff. And especially when dealing with things like cars and saying, well, I don't care if the automakers increase the prices on cars. There's one thing that is keeping him in the somewhat good graces of everybody right now, and that is the fact that the economy hasn't gone to a complete tank yet, and that we're all still waiting and hoping for the improvements. We've already had improvements in eggs, okay? So it's just there are times when he just goes off, and I'm just it does nothing. It does nothing. It does nothing for him. I mean, seriously. And he was talking about, he suggested that one of the methods could be backing J.D. Vance in 2028 and then have Vance hand Trump the reins. Like, really? That isn't even possible. Constitutionally speaking, that's not even possible. I mean, seriously. I just wish that Trump would stop this. He's got so many other things going for him. He just needs to stop that whole concept of, hey, I'm going to run for a third term. Many people want me to run for a third term. Well, yeah, they do, but You're not going to be able to do it. You can't. You can't. Constitutionally speaking, you can't. The 22nd Amendment was passed by Congress in 1947 after President FDR was elected to 4 terms, and they got scared. That's it. I'm sorry. Even if Ronald Reagan, one of my favorite presidents, wanted to run for a 3rd term, I would be on the same side. I would be saying no. Let's stick to the legality and the reality. Don't give me this. Oh yeah, there's like, a bunch of other methods that I could be run for a 3rd term. No, you can't. Not unless you find a way somewhere to like erase 2020 all over again. And again, like I said, he doesn't need to mess with buddy. I understand. He loves messing with leftist lunatics. I get it. But he's got to move on from this now. He's gotten the office. He's gotten into the office. He needs to concentrate on doing nothing but good things for America so that he can basically prove the fact that he's rightfully in his place. Okay? It's the one thing that kind of bothers me about him. Focus on what you need to focus on. Anyway, I'm done. All right, folks. No, buddy, only on this one thing. Only on this one thing. It's to me, it's irrelevant. It's stupid. It's totally, just to toss something out like that isn't healthy. It isn't productive. It doesn't do anything. I mean, other than the fact that, yeah, it is entertaining when you see the left going nuts. But, anyway. All right, folks. That's it for me for this evening. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed up and signed in, make sure you search up the American Perspective channel, hit that green follow button to get notified every time I go live. Also, too, don't forget to hit those thumbs up on the way out, even a thumbs down. I don't care. Actually, I do care. I'd rather more thumbs up than thumbs downs, but I get it. Just give me some kind of a reaction on your way out, whether it's on YouTube, Facebook, X, or of course the aforementioned Rumble. We'll see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.